Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have back with us. It's always a joy to have Dr. Jerome Corsi with us. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's WorldNetDaily's senior staff reporter, and he really is on top of a lot of things. In fact, he just wrote a new book, and let me encourage you, you're looking for a good Christmas gift, this would be a good one, called No Greater Valor. We want to talk to him about that and also about some issues as well. But first of all, Dr. Corsi, good to see you. How was the root canal?
Oh, I survived. I always do. You know, teeth are, hey, at least I still have them, you know?
Yeah, there you nice to see you again. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, what made you take this topic on, the siege of Bastogne?
Well, the end of World War II has always been, World War II in general was fascinating. My father fought in World War II, and you know, as a kid, I would always ask his friends and him what they did in the war. And the story of Bastogne, you know, which occurred during the Battle of the Bulge, the very end of the war, when Hitler tried this massive Panzer counteroffensive and just about pulled it off. I mean, except for a few units like the 101st Screaming Eagles that went in unprepared, no winter clothing, into this very bitter winter in little tiny village Bastogne in Belgium, Crossroads Village, and held off for 8 days over Christmas. I mean, it's a great story. And what fascinated me so much was the guys who would talk about it, who had been there or, you know, been in the Battle of the Bulge, all had the feeling that Bastogne was a intervention by God, that, you know, the things that happened, that, you know, miracles, that the weather broke and Patton had a prayer said, and the whole nature of it was really one of moral courage and the tradition that stretches back to George Washington praying in the snow at Valley Forge and coming out with a victory that would be completely unanticipated. Well, so too, you know, the 101st going into Bastogne, even when they were sent into Bastogne, you know, nighttime, open trucks, trucked 107 miles in back roads, Belgium, where they didn't even know where they were. Eisenhower and Bradley, the two generals in, you know, the Supreme Allied Command, thought the 101st was expendable. The entire unit got wiped out. As long as they held the Germans for 48 hours, Eisenhower and Bradley would have considered it to be a good deal.
Wow. Wow.
And yet they held for 8 days, and they held under remarkable adversity, running out of shells in the foxholes, getting gangrene because they didn't have proper foot coverage. I mean, it's a tremendous story of faith and courage, and the 101st is today off in Liberia fighting Ebola. I went to Fort Campbell, where they're headquartered in Kentucky, and worked in the archives. It's one of the most distinguished military units in U.S. history, military history. And it's a proud unit. It has every reason to be, and I wanted to tell the story.
Wow. How did you find the information?
Well, you know, that's what, I'm a researcher by nature. Remember, I'm an academic. I'm a PhD. I got a PhD at Harvard at 25. I used to be pretty good at this even as a kid. So, you know, it's a library. I was never any good at baseball, but I could go into a library and read every book in a couple days. So the archives are not easy to use in a college park. You've got to resolve to spend a lot of time there figuring out where things are and how they're stored. And the truth is, the archivists don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe an archivist who worked there 20 years ago knows, but they're gone. So you just got to sit there and say, give me these boxes, and, you know, wait for the boxes to come out. It's a long process. And then you got to say, is this what you're looking for or not? For instance, I knew that S.L.A. Marshall, one of the military historians, was at Bastogne, and he took oral histories right after the battle. But nobody knew where they were. And I called military archives, I called West Point, I worked with the archivists at College Park. Nobody knew where they were. They were lost. Well, so here I am one day in the middle of doing this research, and I'm opening a box and looking at it and reading it, and here they are. So this is it. This is the after battle oral history with General McCall, who was the commander, you know, at Bastogne, the artillery commander of the 101st, and assigned by S.L.A. Marshall. Well, I found about 25 or 30 of these, and they were invaluable. I have them up now. NoGreaterValue.com is premiums. People can get them free if they buy the book. But they were lost.
Wow. That is fascinating. I don't. It must emotionally impact you when you start reading this stuff. How do you keep your composure when you realize not only the valor but the faith and the divine intervention?
It is a very emotional experience. It's even emotional for me to be interviewed about the book. I mean, it's, you know, you read these military records are, once you get them, the after action reports are very, very detailed, hour by hour, minute by minute records often. And you're reading about people who, you know, and you realize that you're talking about these mostly 20-year-old kids. And, you know, 15% of them are dead by the time this is over.
Wow.
And, you know, you're reading what they did and how they fought and the actions they went through. And it's just remarkable to think how, you know, here you are. The 101st went in. They didn't have any winter equipment. They basically didn't have any ammunition. The 28th Infantry was on the roads from Bastogne in retreat. These men were dazed. They were saying, you know, panzers everywhere. You're all going to get killed. There's millions of Germans up there. Don't go up there. And the guys at the 101st said, well, that's why they're sending us in.
Wow.
To take care of it. And they said, you know, are you using that M1? Well, we could use it. Give it to us. They had the guys pile up, retreating, their coats and their clothes and their weapons and their ammunition. And the 101st driving by took what they could. That's how they armed themselves going into battle.
Wow. Dr. Corsi, there's something about that generation's American spirit / faith.
No question about it. I
mean,
mean,
you discovered it in your research. How do you explain it? I mean, it was an unbelievable.
Well, what you have with these people, with that generation, and I think with a lot of generations of Americans, and it's one of the reasons, you know, General Boykin commented on the book. He endorsed it. And of course, he was fired from the military by President Obama for refusing to stop professing his faith openly in Jesus Christ. And you realize that, you know, the military, our founding fathers said, and this also has intrigued me since I was a kid, you read various of the founding fathers saying, if America ever loses its Judeo-Christian tradition, you will lose your freedom. Now, I'm wondering, I always thought about that as a kid. I said, how could somebody like Jefferson, you know, Jefferson's a very highly intelligent, gifted guy. I mean, he's doing mathematics, he's inventing things, he's producing furniture, he's building Monticello, he speaks French, he goes off to France, he's, you know, meeting with the best philosophers, he's a sophisticated guy. And yet Jefferson is saying, you know, go back and read the first sentences of things, you know, the Declaration of Independence and our founding documents. And it's clear that they're saying that this is a nation founded on natural right, on the God principles, that this is how God created us. And, you know, Jefferson got it largely from Aristotle. People forget that Aristotle studied constitutions. And Aristotle's fundamental best regime was a constitutional republic of limited checks and balances, executive, legislative, and judicial. That's an Aristotle concept.
Wow.
Jefferson was impressed by Aristotle, as I was impressed by Aristotle, you know, as a kid reading it. You know, I gotta remember, I didn't go to school. I basically ran away from kindergarten. But I went to the library, and why would I go to kindergarten when I could sit there and read Jefferson?
Yeah.
What a waste of time it was too. So here, when I'm a kid, and just like I was a kid listening to my dad, and you know, my dad was a tough guy. He was a labor negotiator. A machine gun blew up in my dad's face when he was in the Army Air Force, and his vision was bad. He had to always wear a patch or a lens over a dark lens on one of his eyes on his glasses. And he finally got an operation when he was just about ready to die, and he was cured. I went back to see him. He still had the patch on. I said, well, Dad, no, I don't mean to pry, but, you know, I thought Mom said this operation was successful. He said it was. I said, well, then why do you have the patch on? If I can ask. And he said, because I liked the patch. But he's a tough guy.
Wow.
It made him look bad. And, you know, and yet, these guys who went through Bastogne and went through the experience were experiencing God in the experience. just like Jefferson did. So I'm thinking to myself, these are highly intelligent guys. They must be onto something. What's the key to unlocking that mystery? And I really began and have perceived all my life that they were right, because this is fundamentally an exercise in affirming faith, belief, and moral relativism fails because it produces what you see in our society today. And that is, this disintegration, this breakup, that all values hold, so any value is good, and now we're going to worry about transvestites in the military.
Dr. Corsi, you not only weep for what you discovered in your research, but I sense in this topic also is what we have lost in America. And where is this faith? Why have we allowed seemingly one person to push it so far into the ditch? It's an amazing, I see where Klinkenschmidt lost his case before the federal judge, and of course it'll be appealed for praying in Jesus' name. I mean, we're kicking the very source of what keeps us together out. And from what you've said, it appears we have forgotten that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States are divinely inspired documents.
Precisely. And that's the basis of saying America is an exceptional country. In other words, America is not just another country founded. There's, 197 countries today, and how many countries over the historical, junk heap of countries. But, the ones that have persisted, that have been historically significant, the United States was founded on natural law principles, thinking about God, thinking about how we function as human beings, being skeptical of power. The Roman Republic was the height of, people like Cicero and Cato. Go back and read them, which I've done, and they continue to fascinate me. Understood the same principles. And that is, if the Roman Empire moved away from a divine concept, even though the divine concept was, pre-Jesus Christ, and it was it was multiple gods, it was, polytheic, it was still founded in natural law. I mean, Aristotle, Plato were not Christian. There was no Christ to be Christian about. But yet, if you read Aristotle and Plato, you read the Gorgias of Plato, the discussion is, is justice something that's practical? It's not fair. Justice isn't fair. Plato has a discussion about, in the Gorgias, about, well, why don't we build boats with holes in the bottom? Says that's a good idea. We can see the fish. And then they say, well, the reason we don't build boats with holes in the bottom is because they don't float very well.
Yeah.
And the reason why we don't have dictators is they don't float very well.
Yeah.
So it's not just any government is equivalent to any other government.
Wow. Let me take a break here, Dr. Corsi. And again, the book is entitled No Greater Valor. By the way, you can go to nogreatervalor.com is the website. Look for it in bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and get a copy of it. It would make a wonderful Christmas gift. No Greater Valor by Dr. Jerome Corsi. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and of course he's a New York Times best-selling author, and his latest book is entitled No Greater Valor, and it examines the seas of Bastogne. And let me tell you, this is quite a book, and I can tell that it has changed him personally by doing the research on this book. But there's much to glean from it, and I would hope that you would check it out. You can go to nogreatervalor.com or look for it online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Before I leave the book, Dr. Corsi, it's obvious it's impacted you greatly. What was your biggest surprise in researching this?
Oh, well, there were a lot of surprises. I think the really understanding the depth to which, those who fought at Bastogne had gone. I mean, there's moments in the battle. Christmas Eve, the battle was fought over Christmas. They all go to services, and at the end of the services, approaching, after midnight, troops come back and they say goodbye to each other. Kind of a quiet descends on the battlefield, which the generals didn't really understand. And the men actually thought a lot of them would die the next day. And they heard the Germans singing Christmas carols in the woods, and they realized they were the same Christmas carols that we sing, but in German, like Silent Night, etc. And, that kind of a bond was, a moment in Bastogne was really kind of touching. And you wonder what it had to have been like to have been there, to have gone through that, and to realize, the values that transcended the two forces. And you have to wonder, the Nazis, our troops fighting there were aware of the massacre of Normandy. I mean, the SS had come through and under a guy named Piper and had massacred about 100 U.S. troops who had surrendered, POWs standing in a snowy field, and went through the field and stabbed with bayonets any who survived the machine gunning. And, we felt the Nazis were truly evil, and how they could yet, this was one of the fascinations of Hitler, how a Christian nation like Germany could descend into the barbarism that was represented by Hitler, the concentration camps, and all the other things the Nazis did. And the moral determination our men had to, restore values within, the world, and to destroy this evil force. And it's with perception that I wonder if we could have today.
Oh, boy. I'm just wondering, for various reasons, political correctness and other things, have we antiseptically scrubbed faith and morals from the military?
Well, see, I mean, this is the issue. And the issue to me is that, the Nazis went down this path. And by the time, Hitler, absolutely atheistic. I mean, he had no belief in, he was, if anything, he crossed over and was satanic. I mean, if you look at it from a Christian perspective. And the evil, he was perfectly happy to casually administer on the world, sipping tea at Bergdorf while sending Jews to the ovens in the concentration camps at Dachau. And, I've walked Auschwitz, twice. These are other experiences that fundamentally change you. And you see what happens when people lose religion. Well, why is it that we're having difficulty deciding that, it's evil when ISIS is beheading, crucifying people, and killing them by jamming crucifixes down their throats? And, killing whole villages, women and children. Do we really have to worry about whether this is evil, or is this just, choice A, B, C, D on the morally equivalent list to pick whichever flavor you want today?
All right, let's jump over into some current issues. It appears the president has no policy or plan to stop what you just mentioned. If anything, he seems to be throwing gas on the fire.
Well, if you recall, when I wrote The Abomination in 2008, I warned everyone that Barack Obama, who we really still fundamentally don't know who he is, his background documents have yet to be proven in any degree of detail. It looks like a CIA background to me, manufactured entity, manufactured personality. I said this was a person who was raised as a child in Indonesia by a Muslim stepfather who educated him as a Muslim and brought him to the mosque. And Barack Obama then, of course, denied all that. And then when he gets a chance, he was in Cairo in, I believe, June 2009. I was in Israel at that time. And Obama gets up in front of a auditorium and says, in Cairo, and says, I've experienced Islam on 3 continents. And I said, well, that's interesting. Why didn't you tell people that when you were running for president?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've got someone who, if you look at what he does, forget about what he says, because I think after Gruber, even the most diehard Obama ideologue would have to admit that this is a guy who lies habitually.
Right.
Doesn't really care about the truth. Everything he says is calculated to get you to do something. And I've warned people about that. That's the Saul Alinsky basis. Again, another moral relativist manipulating people, which is what, once you've lost your values, you can easily get around to doing. So here you have someone who basically, what he's done is destabilize Northern Africa, killed Gaddafi by supporting Al-Qaeda in Libya.
Right.
When Gaddafi, Farrakhan, and Reverend Wright, when Obama was coming up remember, Obama attended the Million Man March for Farrakhan. And here's Obama associated with both Reverend Wright and Farrakhan getting money from Gaddafi. And then Obama abandons Gaddafi and kills him through Al-Qaeda. And we wonder why Chris Stevens is killed, probably either fostering or objecting to the arms traffic we're doing like Fast and Furious through Benghazi, with the arms going through Turkey into Syria.
Right.
So you have the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood, and here you have Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood takes over. Muslim Brotherhood traces back to the Mufti of Jerusalem, who was a buddy of Hitler, and it's now a criminal organization in Egypt. Yasser Arafat was an Egyptian. He came up through the Muslim Brotherhood. He wasn't Palestinian. Mm-hmm. And Obama, as soon as the Muslim Brotherhood takes over, puts all kinds of money into Egypt. And then the moment there's a military coup and the Muslim Brotherhood's under trial, Obama withdraws the money. So Russia moves in and starts supporting Egypt. And now you've got the situation in Al-Qaeda. Well, Obama has gone back and forth wanting to kill Assad or wanting to work with the moderate forces. Well, there are no moderate forces here. The people who are fighting Assad are a group of militant, mercenary Islamicists, killers that we funded going back to Libya.
Unbelievable. All right. Secretary Hagel's resignation. It appears that he reached an impasse. He couldn't manage the department. And it also appears that he may have woken up on the job and realized that this whole terrorist problem is bigger than Obama wants to really deal with. What's your take on him?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying I've never had a lot of respect for Hagel to begin with. I've always felt that Hagel probably engineered and stole his election when he won it. And that I've studied the voting in that case pretty detailedly. I think Hagel was appalled. I think even Hagel.
Yeah, that's the point.
Even Hagel.
Yeah.
Couldn't take what Obama was doing to the military and wouldn't preside over its destruction. And, Obama is, again, if you look at what he's doing, not what he says, the military, as I predicted when I wrote Abomination, we would end up with a much weakened military, because Obama's conviction from, if you read my book, I was the first one to say Obama's thinking comes from Frantz Fanon, and he's opposing colonialism. Dinesh D'Souza, who's a good friend, will openly admit that the theme of his first movie was something I first developed. Because I was reading Obama's writings from, Dreams from My Father. I said, wait a minute, this sounds exactly like Frantz Fanon. And whoever wrote it, Frantz Fanon was a radical Algerian who wrote books about why it was necessary for the psychological development of African Americans, or at this point Algerians, to go kill whites. He's a psychiatrist, and he was recommending kill whites therapeutically. Well, I thought when I was a kid, I read that in college. I thought, this Frantz Fanon character is about as weird a fruitcake as you're ever going to find. How can you go as a psychiatrist and recommend to people they kill in order? So this sounds like Charles Manson.
Wow.
And so here you got Obama parroting Frantz Fanon paragraph for paragraph, and I'm saying this is a guy who has got tremendous hatred of the United States as a colonial power and will do everything he can to reduce our military and reduce our significance in the world. And I predicted that when I wrote Abomination. And of course, everybody said I was a liar and a hate case and I didn't know what I was talking about. I think now, 6 years later, you go back and look at Abomination, you tell me where I was wrong.
Yeah. Dr. Corsi, thank you. I wish I had you for several hours, and I look forward to having you back often and soon. I want to say thank you for writing the book, No Greater Valor. And I want to say thank you for your transparency this morning. I'm moved by it deeply, and thank you for your tenacity to stay in there. So let's get together again soon. If we don't see you before Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and yours, okay?
And likewise to the audience, and I'll be happy to come back anytime you ask.
All right, blessings, my friend. All right.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back, and delighted to have back in the studio with us today Treva Kuyper. She is one of the co-leaders of the Loft, the ministry that reaches out to young girls from 8th grade to 12th grade, impacting their lives, challenging them, getting them on the right path. And I think one of the great ministries of Southern Oregon. So good to see you. How's it going?
It's going good.
So how far are you into it now?
We're about halfway in. About halfway in. Well, a little less than halfway. We go all the way through till June.
June.
Yeah.
All right. And you take a variety of topics.
Yes.
What was your one last go around?
It was called Mean Girls. So we talked about bullying and toxic relationships.
How'd it go?
It went really well. It went really well. Afterwards, I had one of the teenagers come to me and just say that she's going to make some changes in her life and the way that she treats others, and that she learned a lot that night. So that was, yeah, that was wonderful.
Any victims of bullying?
Yeah, we had some girls that, had some tears, and maybe not currently right now, but maybe when they were in elementary school, had some things happen, and they were able to have encouragement in how to walk away from that, walk through that, and be healed by that.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a great topic.
All right, now next week, or this coming weekend.
This Sunday.
Family Dynamics. By the way, you can join this anywhere along the line, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you have a young girl between 8th grade and 12th grade, just get over to the Community Bible Church there in Central Point, Sunday evenings at
5:30.
5:30.
Yes, 5:30 to 8:30. Yep, and dinner.
And dinner.
And this Sunday I'm excited because we're celebrating a little bit of Christmas.
Oh.
We're going to have a mini Christmas dinner. We're going to give away some gifts. And last December, if you remember, we were iced out, so we had to cancel.
Yes, right.
So we get to celebrate Christmas with the girls. We'll have a tree up, and we're going to talk about cookie cutter lives. How do they live in their normal? And so family dynamics is what we're talking about this Sunday.
Family dynamics. Not every family is a happy one.
No, and there is no two families the same.
Really?
And I think, yes, and I think that the girls somehow believe.
At the end of the day, we're all dysfunctional.
We are, and we're just human, right?
Yeah,
we all
right.
have our issues, and I think that the girls tend to focus so inward and so inside their own home and think that maybe there's something wrong with them if their family's not this way or that way, or maybe what they see on television. And we want to show them that, hey, whatever your normal is, with hope and encouragement and truth, you can walk through that in victory.
Wow. Blended families. I'm sure you talk about it.
Yes.
And the percentages today now are almost the norm, isn't it? I mean, isn't there more blended than there are?
Absolutely.
52% or something like that?
Absolutely. And, I've shared with you before that I'm a child of 4 divorces and 5 marriages. And
did you hear that, folks? 4 divorces and 5 marriages. My stars. And you survived.
Absolutely. But when I was growing up, I thought that that was normal. The friends that I had who had parents that were still married, I thought that that was abnormal. And actually, that is pretty true. I mean, when you look at families nowadays, a blended family, a split family, a divorced family is more common than the families that stay married and have that stable home.
You said something there, it's the key. You thought that was normal.
I did.
And so children that are being raised in a broken home or a blended home, that's normal to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how do they live in that?
So how does it impact, how did it impact you? What was your hardest thing to deal with?
I think for me it was, with the divorces, it was the feeling of abandonment. People would leave for no reason, in my perspective, because it was my parents' issue. So whatever step parents I had, whatever affairs were going on, it was the parents' issues that were happening, but I didn't know what those issues were. So I internalized it, that it became my issue. And I just watched people walk out the door and not have a reason and not knowing what happened. And that becomes part of my identity, or that's what happened when I was younger.
How could you possibly feel secure?
I didn't feel secure, and I think that's why my heart is so for these girls that don't have that stability and don't feel secure in their family. Because you don't know, well, if I do this, this, and this, are they still going to leave? Does them leaving mean they don't love me? All of those kinds of situations. And children and teenagers, they look to adults as their example. You know, and so however they're led, however I was led, is how I become, unless I make a choice to be different.
I just don't know if we understand the depth of the impact of this on a young person.
It's huge.
You know, they can't feel secure. They don't know if they're the reason why this happened. So they probably, in a subconscious way, blame themselves. Right? I mean, you carried the guilt of it.
Absolutely. And then what it does is it comes out in all different kind of hurtful ways to ourselves. Yeah. So then maybe, like for me, I ended up having all these relationships with boys, sleeping around. I got pregnant when I was 19. I had an abortion. I mean, I went down this path of trying so desperately to have a man love me. That was my thing, because every man left. So I thought, well, if I just gave them everything, then maybe I would be loved. And it wasn't until the Lord Jesus got hold of my life to say, no, you're worthy. I made you for more than this. I made you for more than this, and I love you. And when he became my God, my Father, my friend, my love, then I didn't need to seek after all of those guys for that.
How old were you then when that happened?
I was 21 when the Lord grabbed hold of me.
So all through your teenage, growing up, hormonal, skyrocketing years.
Yes. Oh, I was a mess. I was a mess. And these girls, a lot of them, they're a mess. And where some of them sleep around, I mean, kids are having sex when they're in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, all kinds of young ages, this crazy stuff that's going on. But some of the girls, they have eating disorders, they're cutting. That's why we even began the Loft, was to have a place once a month where they can come and they can have truth poured into them, have encouragement, have hope. If their home life is horrible or they're not connecting with their parents, maybe it's a Christian home and a home where they go to church. Well, no matter what the home is, there's conflict. So if they become hopeless, they act out in all of these destructive ways. But if we give them hope, if we give them people in their lives that understand and love them and will walk alongside them, then maybe they'll have a little bit more hope.
Okay, we just touched on some of the really deep issues, and I'm assuming now, Sunday night, this is what you take in even more depth.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can't help but think these girls would squirm if their norm is abnormal to a non-broken home. It's hard for us to wrap our heads around that. But on the other hand, how do you get them to consider Christ, a male figure, is their answer?
Oh, it's so hard. They, whatever relationship they have with their dad, they will then have that define their relationship with God the Father. It's what we do. And for little girls, teenage girls, adult women, that's what we do.
How did you know that Jesus wasn't going to leave you? Be man number 6.
Well, I'm 41, and so it's been 20 years of the Lord showing me over and over and over again that he's not going to leave me. I don't think that when I was 21, all of a sudden a light switch went on and I thought, he's not ever going to leave me. He kept showing me that over, even recently.
Really?
God and I just went through a thing recently where he had to really grab hold of me.
I thought you had your act together.
Yeah, I do. But there's those little things that the enemy comes in and says, but what if?
What if, yeah.
But what if? And God always comes back and says, oh, but I'll never leave you. My word says so. And he shows us in tangible ways. What God did for me is he gave me a husband that is godly and strong and is a rock and is what I say is Christ in the flesh for me.
Of course, that's the
for
role.
me. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the role.
And that's who God gave me. And so through the relationship with my husband, God has shown me that he will never leave me, no matter what mistakes I make. And I try to share my story with the girls that if you hold on and you don't quit and you ask the Lord into your life as your Savior, he will show himself faithful.
Well, let me say to those listening and watching today, this ministry is unbelievable, and it's impacting young girls at the level that is real, very real. So family dynamics, it's a huge topic. So if you have a young girl between 8th grade and 12th grade, that's what it's designed to do. Because, boy, you can catch them there. You can pretty much turn their life around. It'll be at the Community Bible Church in Central Point, 5:30 Sunday. It includes a meal.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Absolutely. Just show up. The girls can bring their friends.
Bring their friends.
Absolutely. 5:30 to 8:30 this Sunday night.
Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
You're a living testimony of something that I have said all my years on radio and television. Whatever God saves you from or brings you through, he turns around and makes you a minister too.
Yes, he
right?
does. Amen. Yes, he does.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we are delighted to have on Focus today Randy Sharp. Now, he's the Director of Special Projects for American Family Association, and we have a variety of their staff on throughout the year, and it's a tremendous organization. He's also one of the contributing writers to the AFA Journal, which is a monthly publication with approximately 150,000 subscribers. And again, afa.net's their website, afa.net. It is a tremendous resource and so much information there, so check it out. Hi, Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Perry. Good morning.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, listen, you've come up with your naughty or nice list. Tell us about it.
Well, about 9 years ago, AFA put together the AFA Annual Naughty and Nice list, in which we rate the top 100 national retailers and how they incorporate Christmas into all of their advertising medium. And through a strategy of looking at newspaper ads and Facebook pages and emails that these companies send out, we're able to grade these companies on whether they deserve to be on the good list or they deserve a sack of coal for Christmas.
Wow. You know, this is kind of the genesis of the whole organization of AFA, right?
It is activism. We want to make a difference in our culture. We saw back in 1977, when American Family Association began, that there was a secularization going on, and it was a disturbing trend. And we knew that Christians and people of faith needed to stand up, take a stand, and speak out and try to push back a little bit and say Christ is the center of this country. It's founded on biblical and Christian values, and we're not going to give them up lightly. We're going to fight for what we believe in. We're going to fight for our faith.
Good for you. All right, so who were the great offenders this year?
Well, you know, I want to preface that, Perry, with saying that 9 years ago, 80% of the top 100 retailers in America were using generic happy holiday, season greetings, politically correct greetings in all of their advertising. But through our campaign of contacting these companies and having you and your listeners and good folks all across America letting these companies know that we are Christmas shopping. We want to see Christmas. Today, we can say that 80% of the national retailers now acknowledge and use Christmas often in all of their advertising, but there are a few holdouts.
Okay.
And let me just mention that this year, each year, AFA calls for a Christmas boycott of one particular company. And this year, this company, we've asked and begged them for 6 years. Just listen to us. Hear our concerns. This is a company that adamantly refuses to use the word or the term Christmas in all of their advertising, although, Perry, they are distinctly advertising and marketing to Christmas shoppers. And that company is PetSmart, the pet food and pet toy store. It's a national chain, and for 6 years, this company has rejected all pleas to even use the word Christmas in any of their advertising. So we're asking good folks all across America, number one, to boycott PetSmart through Christmas, and number two, let PetSmart know why you won't be shopping with them. We believe that if enough people will stand up and make their voice heard, that PetSmart they'll get the message. And next year, hopefully, things will be different.
Wow. You know what's so interesting? I have grown to almost, I can't say anger, but I can tell you a deep hurt in my heart when I see the term Xmas. It just drives me crazy. I can't stand it.
Yeah, X stands for the unknown, and we learned that in 5th grade math class.
Yeah.
And there is unknown. Christ is not the unknown. He's the great I am. And I get emotional when I talk about what Christ has done in my life and the meaning that his birth and the celebration of his birth at Christmas, what it means to me. And for companies to try to market their wares to me and get me to spend my hard-earned money with them, yet they don't want to acknowledge the reason of the season, that hurts me deeply too.
Okay. Let's go over to the nice list. Who's turning around and who's staying on top?
You know, there are a couple of great companies out there that celebrate Christmas exclusively throughout this year. You see it in their stores, you see it in their commercials, you see it on their Facebook page, you see it in their email marketing campaigns. And we always highlight 4 or 5 companies that, you know, we have to understand that, Perry, these are companies. They're not religious companies. They're businesses, and they're out to make money for their investors, and we understand that. But these companies seem to go above and beyond what you would normally expect. And this year on our list, we're glad to announce that companies like Hobby Lobby, you would expect that at Hobby Lobby, but well-known companies like Lowe's Home Improvement stores and Walmart stores. When you look at Sears, when you go into Sears, you'll see Merry Christmas signs throughout the store. When you go into Walmart, you'll see a Christmas shop, a specially designated area for all kinds of Christmas resources, your trees, your bows, your wrappings. And then they also sell religious items that pertain to Christmas and to this time of the year. So those are 3 companies that we're glad to recommend that you consider shopping at. We don't endorse any company, but we can say that when it comes to Christmas, these companies top the list.
What about media, Randy? Are you guys tracking that? I mean, any networks that are improving or getting worse? Do you track that?
Yeah, each year all of the networks seem to have some of their Christmas-themed programs that air 2, 3, or 4 weeks leading up to Christmas Day. And there are a lot of feel-good stories. Basically, they're out of the normal fare of what you would find at ABC, NBC, or CBS. You know, so much sex and violence and profanity, but it seems like during this time of the year, the networks seem to tone it down and put some more family-friendly genre programs on the air. And that's great that families can sit down and enjoy a good Christmas movie together. They bring back some of the old ones. You, Perry, I know you remember growing up with Miracle on 34th Street every year on television.
Why are we both smiling here?
Yeah, because we're both old and we remember that. And who can forget Bedford Falls and Jimmy Stewart? in It's a Wonderful Life. These are timeless treasures,
right.
And we're glad that it seems like the networks seem to bring those back and present those to our families so we can enjoy them together.
Randy, is this list on your website?
It is, Perry. Listeners can go to afa.net/Christmas list, afa.net/Christmas list, and you can also contact these companies. If you'll go to the naughty side of the ledger, you can click on any of the companies listed, and we provide their Facebook page, an email address, a phone number, and you can contact these companies and let them know, I'm not going to shop at your stores this year because.
Okay, or if they are supporting Christmas, thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
Some have said, Randy, boycotts don't work, but AFA's been pretty successful. In fact, if you go back to the beginning days, you were Phil Donahue's nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. Our founder, Dr. Don Wildman and Phil Donahue, they had their battles. And over time, we see that Phil Donahue is no longer on the air. He was pulled off. And Perry, we have to say, it wasn't Don Wildman or American Family Association. It was people like your listeners who care enough to get involved, to make a difference, and to let their voice be heard. And when we gather together in numbers, we speak great volumes to networks, to advertisers, to corporations. We can make a difference, and we will make a difference if we will stand for righteousness and if we will stand together as one.
All right, I just want to say it's afa.net and you'll / Christmas list, but afa.net, the whole website, I mean, it is a wonderful resource, and AFA deserves your support. Randy, one of my growing concerns is that even amongst programming that would maybe be attractive to the whole family, and even sports events, they'll slip in a very risque ad. And it's kind of like it just blindsides you, it just hits you in the face. Is anything being done in that area?
Well, we know that there are certain ads for enhancement ads. So we'll leave it at that, Perry.
Okay.
And I think everyone will know these companies are acting very irresponsibly to air these during family program or even before 10 or 11 p.m. at night when most children are still up and maybe in front of the TV. And then it's the network's responsibility. They're governed by the Federal Communications Commission. They're licensed, just like your station is, to have certain standards. And we feel like these standards are being violated. So the only recourse really is to go to the Federal Communications Commission website, fcc.gov, and they've set up a site where if you see one of these inappropriate ads at a time that shouldn't be airing, you can file a complaint against that network or that television station and ask the FCC to investigate and find out why these inappropriate ads are airing before the safe haven hours, which are 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
The FCC has said you can't air some ads.
What you're primarily saying, this is a network decision. I mean, just recently we know that after the Charlie Brown special, that network programming promotion ad ran. It was very poor.
Yes.
But it was deliberate. It was in your face.
Oh, absolutely. And the Parents Television Council has called them to the carpet, and there should be complaints filed with the Federal Communications Commission. This network acted irresponsibly and damaged the minds of no telling how many children, Perry, were affected by what they saw. And it shouldn't be, a parent should not have to race for the remote control to change the channel when you're watching a Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah. Hey, I got to go, Randy. Merry Christmas to all of you there at AFA. Thank you for what you guys do. We really cherish our partnership with you guys, and keep up the good work. Look forward to having you back. And again, it's afa.net/Christmas list if you want to check that out. Thanks, Randy. God bless you, friend.
Merry Christmas.
All right, see you later. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.